Magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat. Ito na naman si Marsolo. Kaya kung bago ka pa lang sa channel ko, please subscribe and i-hit mo yung notification bell at i-select mo yung all para updated po tayo sa mga video na gagawin natin katulad nito, mga balita, mga issues sa lipunan, ah, mga hinaing ng bayan. Ang layo ah. So ito mayroon tayong bagong balita. Tsak na matutuwa talaga kayo kung anong balita to. Eto, Pangulong Duterte nakalabas na po sa ICC sa dahig. Gaano nga ba katotoo na nakalabas na daw si Duterte, Pangulong Duterte noon? Samantalang wala namang binabalita sa TV. So gaano nga ba katotoo na nakalabas na daw po? Ayon po kay Kaufman, yung legal counsel ni Pangulong Duterte, na 100% daw siya na makakalabas talaga ito dahil sa lupit daw niya. So ito, panoorin po natin kung totoo nga ba ang balita, totoo nga ba yung tinuran ni Kaufman. So pakinggan po at panoorin.
Ito ang balita ngayon. Trending at pinag-uusapan ngayon sa mundo ng social media. Ang di umano'y balitang tunay nga na ang lahat ay may.
So kung napapanood talaga to ng mga Dilawan, Pinklawan, yung mga administrasyon Marcos, tsak na manginginig sila. Hindi manginginig sa takot, manginginig sila dahil sasabihin nila na dito na naman siguradong another beginning at panibagong buhay na naman at panibagong lakas ng mga Duterte ang mararanasan ng mga administrasyon Pinklawan at Dilawan. Dahil ito, pag totoo talagang nakalabas na ito, yari na sila.
Hangganan at hindi mananaigang kasamaan laban sa kabutihan. Dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte wala na umano at nakalabas na di umano sa ICC detention facility. Ito ang trending at palaisipang balita ngayon sa mundo ng social media matapos nagbigay kamakailan lamang ng palaisipang pahayag ang Vice President na si Sara Duterte mula sa Daheg, Netherlands kaugnay sa mga bagong update sa dating Pangulong Duterte mula sa ICC detention facility. Kaya tila nabuhayan ng maraming taga-suporta ng dating Pangulo ng Pilipinas matapos ang ilang buwang paghihintay ay lumabas ang napakalaking balita at tila nagpagimbal at tila halos nataranta na ang lahat ng kumakalaban sa dating Pangulo at ang gobyernong ngagba matapos lumabas ang balita na di umano'y nakalabas na sa ICC detention facility ang dating Pangulo na si Rodrigo Duterte. Gaano kaya katotoo ang malaking balita na ito mga kababayan na nag-viral at nag-trending ngayon sa lahat ng social media platforms? Sabay-sabay nating alamin. Pero bago ang lahat, kung bago ka pa lamang sa aming channel, please huwag kalimutang mag-like, subscribe at i-click ang notification bell para mas maging updated ka pa lalo sa lahat pa ng bagong video na i-upload namin. At ito na nga mga kababayan, sa paglipas ng maraming araw mula nang dalhin ng dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte sa ICC detention facility sa Daheg, Netherlands, kung saan marami sa ating mga kababayan, lalong-lalo na ang taga-suporta ng dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte ang naghihintay na makalabas at makauwi ito sa Pilipinas. Sa isang pahayag kay Vice President Sara Duterte, mukhang tila nakalabas na di umano ang dating Pangulo na si Rodrigo Duterte matapos ang isang malaking palaisipang pahayag o sagot ng Vice President na si Sara Duterte kamakailan lamang sa isang interview mula sa Daheg, Netherlands, kung saan sinabi niya na yung legal counsel na si Attorney Kaufman na lamang daw ang sasagot patungkol sa usaping ito. At ito pa ang malaking magandang balita na dapat malaman ng taong bayan nang matanong si Attorney Kaufman ang legal counsel ng dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte patungkol sa di umano'y nalalapit na pagbabalik ng dating Pangulo sa Pilipinas, ay ito ang kanyang malaking magandang pahayag na 100% daw na makakabalik ang dating Pangulo Pangulo sa Pilipinas. Kaya malaking palaisipan tuloy ngayon sa mga taga-suporta ng Pangulo na ang ibig bang sabihin nito at malaking katanungan ngayon mga kababayan na si dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte ay nakalabas na ba ng detention facility at di umano'y naka-house arrest ngayon sa hindi malamang bansa.
Ang balita, hindi ko ito nakita.
Ano yan?
Na ang dating Pangulong Duterte daw ay nakalabas na ng ICC.
Nakalabas?
May kumalat na balita.
Attorney, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you
Ano po
to
yung
bring
legal counsel?
former President Duterte
Duterte.
back home? What factors support that level of confidence?
Between 1 to 10?
Yes.
I would say 100.
Balita, hindi ko ito nakita.
Ano yan?
Na ang dating Pangulong Duterte daw ay nakalabas na ng ICC.
Nakalabas?
May kumalat na balita.
Nakalaya o baka naman nagpa-araw lang? Hindi kaya?
Ewan ko, kasi maging ang Vice President Sara Duterte ay hindi alam kung totoo ito
Agad.
Ang sabi niya dito ay, I know the answer but I will not comment.
Hindi niya.
As I'm not sure if it is allowed on my level.
Nako, sa tingin niyo mga kadonatics, na figuratively speaking na, well, I know the answer na nakalaya na, but I will not tell you. That's just my hypothesis mga kadonatics.
Ganon?
The best is to ask his lawyer, Attorney Nicholas Kaufman.
Ayun.
May bali-balitang nakalabas daw ng ICC detention facility ang Pangulong Duterte.
Nakalabas o ano, tapos babalik din o paano ibig sabihin?
Wala nga ano.
Baka kasi naman paglabas na inilabas na yung ulong gano'n tapos bumalik din agad.
Ako ay nahihiwagaan sa sagot nito. Kasi sabi niya, I know the answer.
Okay.
Ibig sabihin, alam niya kung nakalabas o hindi.
Uh-huh.
But I will not comment as I'm not sure if it is allowed on my level.
Kung allowed ba siyang sabihin kung ano talaga yung estado?
Oo,
Ganun
kasi,
ba ibig sabihin?
Tanong kung reading between the lines.
Yes.
Kung ang dating Pangulo Duterte ay nandun sa loob ng ICC, hindi niya sasabihin, para sasabihin yun na
Sabi,
nandun yan.
Nasaan nakakulong?
Diba? Kasi wala namang, kasi kung siya lumabas, parang ito ang mas akmang sagot.
Oo nga.
Kasi kakaiba yung nangyari.
Oho.
Bakit natin nasabi yun? Kasi meron siyang, I am not sure if it is allowed on my level. Baka
Yun na
may confidential, na-agree.
Well mga kadonatics, it makes sense na baka lang na nakalabas na talaga si Tatay Digong. Bakit? May statement kasi si Inday Sara Duterte last few days ago na pangangampanya daw ni Tatay Digong si Inday Sara Duterte come 2028 presidential election. Naku naman, baka nga talaga mga kadonatics, media blockage lang, para yung mga kritiko or something like that mga kadonatics, opposition, yung mga drug lords na ayaw makalabas si Tatay Digong, baka, will do something mga kadonatics. So, eto, na-expose na yung balita. Hindi naman sasagot si Inday Sara mga kadonatics ng ganito if walang nangyari doon sa ICC detention facility. To tell you honestly mga kadonatics, pag ikaw ang tanungin ng ganyan, kung alam mo na andun pa si Tatay Digong, of course, ang dali sabihin na, andun pa si Tatay Digong. Pero pag may nangyari mga kadonatics na plot twist, baka ganito yung sagot mo mga kadonatics. What do you think? Eto mga kadonatics, panoorin natin si Attorney Kaufman. Dito mo malalaman towards the end yung hint ng sagot niya mga kadonatics na pwede nga nakalabas si Tatay Digong. But before that, may mga importanteng mensahe siya mga kadonatics to the President and for us. This is actually good news. Okay, panoorin natin mga kadonatics.
Pinakamagaling na presidente ng Pilipinas. Walang iba kundi si
Attorney Kaufman, good morning.
Good morning.
Duterte.
How are you today?
I'm well, thank you very much.
Iyak na
How
naman
is
yung mga
our former
Dilawan,
President Rodrigo
Pinklawan,
Duterte?
at ang
Well, as I
midistrust
said,
yung
he's
bongbong.
always in good spirits, but he's 80 years old and he's tired.
Attorney, in your motion to defer adjudication on the urgent request for interim release, you cited several delays and roadblocks. Could you elaborate on the nature of these obstacles? Or are they primarily procedural, diplomatic, or a combination of both?
Well, unfortunately, I'm not entitled to elaborate further. The matter is subject to confidentiality, as you will have seen from the filings on the ICC website. A number parts of that filing are redacted, and they're redacted for a reason, to protect certain interests.
Attorney, what are the specific delays, whether it is procedural, evidentiary, or logistical, that you believe justify a reassessment of the current schedule for the confirmation of charges?
Well, I want to make it clear, at the present moment in time, the defence hasn't asked to postpone the confirmation of charges hearing. The nature of the delays and the obstacles are confidential, but they are the information that we haven't received, because that's basically the substance of our application, is, in our opinion, crucial, and crucial for determining an issue which could potentially bar the holding of the confirmation of charges hearing.
Because, attorney, there is a concern that the pre-trial chamber may interpret this delay as a tactic, stalling measure rather than a legitimate legal need. How do you respond to that?
Well, the pre-trial chamber know exactly what we've argued, and the pre-trial chamber will understand that we're not deliberately stalling. I don't deliberately stall anything. I do what I believe is the best thing to do for the interests of my client.
Okay. How about the Rule 121 of the ICC Rules of Procedures and Evidence, indicating it clearly that ensuring the efficiency of proceedings, in your view, has the Office of the Prosecutor failed to uphold any part of the obligation in this case?
Well, I'm the last person who would normally hand out awards to the prosecution, but to their credit, they have actually met their disclosure requirements as expected in this case. It's not been the case in other situations before the court, but ironically in this case, they have met their disclosure obligations. What I can say that we've been disclosed a huge amount of information, and that will take time to assimilate and to learn.
Attorney, on another note, 3 Philippine senators have called on the Senate to urge the government to formally petition the International Criminal Court for the interim release of the former president, proposing a house arrest arrangement in The Hague. Legally speaking, how likely is the ICC to consider such an appeal under any circumstances, if any? Could this influence the court's discretion in granting interim release under the Rome Statute?
I think such an initiative on behalf of the senators is to be welcomed, because it basically expresses the will of the people. However, the judges rule on evidence and rule on risk factors. So whatever these senators say, and I welcome it, I really do welcome it, and I thank them for it. Regardless, the judges have a set of rules which they use to decide whether or not an individual should be released or not.
Attorney Kaufman, is your legal team actively considering the options reportedly raised by Attorney Harry Roque to file a separate civil action under Dutch domestic law challenging the legality of Mr. Duterte's or President Duterte's arrest and detention?
Perhaps you could enlighten me. Where is Harry Roque proposing to file this?
Under Dutch law? Under Dutch legal.
And what's the nature of this? Has he mentioned it in the media?
No, not yet. Because it was proposed that a separate legal remedy filed under Dutch laws could be a possible option. Are you actively proposing the same?
Well, this is not the first time I've heard such a crazy scheme. I would put it that way, because at the end of the day, the Netherlands have to be involved in any request to release an individual from the court, because in order to go to a target country or a country where the person has selected to be the place for him to be under house arrest, should obviously the pre-trial chamber agree, he would have to pass through the Netherlands territory. So to initiate a case in the Netherlands against the Netherlands would be a big mistake.
Aside from the recent efforts filed before the ICC, such as the petitions for disqualification of certain judges and the request for interim release, what other legal avenues or procedural steps are you currently exploring to strengthen the case and secure the eventual return of the former president?
Well, there is a petition before the court for interim release. As you might know from a decision given by the judges yesterday, the decision on interim release will be postponed temporarily in order to allow us to present further crucial information to the pre-trial chamber.
On that note, attorney, congratulations on the grant of your defense request to defer adjudication of the urgent motion for interim release. Ideally, is this motion expected to be adjudicated prior to the set confirmation of charges?
I hope so, but it's all tied up with the issue of information that we haven't received, delays, which are not attributable to the defense.
What is the legal significance or advantage of granting the deferment of the adjudication of the urgent motion for interim release?
and said we want to have all the information necessary to promote a claim for interim release. We still require crucial information which is available and can be made available, but because of
Alam niyo, mga
various
kaibigan,
obstacles and delays,
kung
we
totoo man
haven't received it.
makakalabas na si
I'm not entitled
Pangulong
to elaborate
Duterte,
any further on the matter.
another
Thank you,
kasaysayan na naman.
Attorney. If the interim
Ito
release
ay
is granted, will
makakahatak
former
ng
President Duterte
milyon-milyong
be placed under
Pilipino
arrest only during the pre-trial
magpupursige
phase,
talaga na
or will it continue throughout the entire
na si
trial
Sara ang
if
manalo
the
sa
charges are confirmed?
2028 election
One would hope that it will
presidential.
continue throughout the whole trial if
Kaya
charges
ito,
are confirmed, obviously.
sa balitang ito, mga
Attorney,
kaibigan,
according to the report, the ICC has disclosed 1,253 items of evidence related to alleged crimes against humanity involving the former president. Have you had the opportunity to review these materials in full? If so, what is your legal assessment or overall impression of the strength and credibility
kahit
of the
anong
body
gawin
of
nilang
evidence?
Well, you
paninira
talk
sa
about
mga
1,000 or so
Duterte, wa
items that have been disclosed. However, each one
kahit
of those
gumamit
items
pa sila,
sometimes contain
gumasta
up
pa
to
sila
100
ng
or even
bilyong piso
200 pages.
para
So it's
pabagsakin
an
lang
immense
mga
amount of
Duterte, lalo-lalo
information.
na si
It's
Sara.
disclosed electronically.
Wa-epek.
And we
Tandaan
have
nyo yan.
means and methods using the court's information technology systems to analyze that evidence, to perform keyword searches, to focus in on aspects of the case that are interest us for promoting the former president's defense. I'm not going to comment on the strengths and the weaknesses. I'm not allowed to. However, we are busy learning that evidence. We have a short amount of time to do it. We have a fair idea what we want to argue at confirmation, but once again, that's strategy, which I shan't be disclosing in a media interview.
Yes. Do you believe political motivations, either locally or in the Philippines or within the ICC itself, are influencing the pace or direction of the proceedings?
Well, once again, I don't get into politics. That's not my job to start making pronouncements. I've said my views in the past regarding the political motivation behind former President Duterte's current presence in The Hague. But beyond that, I'm not going to comment.
How do you respond to the Vice President Inday Sara Duterte's claim that President Marcos Jr. is working with the ICC to remove her father from politics and to keep the ICC relevant?
I'm not going to comment on Vice President's comments to the media. However, what I can say is that no investigations can be carried out in the Philippines without the approval of the Philippines government. Otherwise, it would be a breach of sovereignty. It depends which way you look at it. And once again, the former president was brought here because supposedly the President Marcos, said that he was complying with Interpol. He wasn't complying with Interpol, he was complying with an ICC arrest warrant. So that is cooperation with a court to which the Philippines is no longer a member.
Are you saying that the Philippines, through these actions, are saying that we are not a sovereign country anymore?
No, I didn't say that. You can't carry out investigative procedures in another country without the approval of that country, otherwise it would be deemed a breach of sovereignty.
Is this action can also be characterized as not believing on our local judiciary?
Well, there's been all sorts of claims made by the current administration. They claim that there's no evidence left because it was all destroyed, and they claim falsely and without any foundation whatsoever that former President Duterte is possibly responsible for the destruction of that evidence. So that's why they argue that he can only be tried here. They've given a number of claims. All the time they're obfuscating the reason for him being transferred to The Hague. What I can say is that the correct place for him to be tried, given our jurisdictional arguments, is in the Philippines. He asked for a Filipino judge, he asked for a Filipino prosecutor, and he said, if I'm found guilty, I will sit in the Filipino prison.
Attorney Kaufman, can I just
Yes, go ahead.
Are you hopeful that it will be dismissed on lack of jurisdiction when Philippine government kidnap PRRD and have him to ICC and Philippine government cooperating on witnesses which vindicate the Philippine government recognizing the jurisdiction of the ICC?
Well, that's a bit of a long question, but once again, our jurisdictional arguments are before the court, and the court will give its decision in due course. Whether it gives it before or after the confirmation hearing or during the confirmation hearing, I don't know. We're coming up to the judicial recess, and traditionally, pre-trial chambers have delivered consequential judgments on the last days of the judicial year. So we can only wait and hope.
On the other hand, why postpone confirmation of charges when this further prolong pre-trial detention of PRRD? What's your timeline to have PRRD released?
Well, once again, I haven't asked to postpone yet the confirmation of charges hearing. I'm waiting to receive crucial information, and I've asked the court to decide upon that crucial information before we get to the confirmation of charges hearing.
One last question for me, I'm sorry. Why did you not wait for the documents that you needed before filing the interim release, Attorney Kaufman?
You're assuming that I didn't ask for them before I filed for interim release. Once again, I've told you that there are certain obstacles that have been placed in our way. I'm not entitled to disclose the nature of those obstacles. I hope that they will be lifted and that we'll get the information that we require as soon as possible.
Attorney Kaufman, I understand that all available legal remedies before the International Criminal Court have been actively pursued in relation to the case involving our former president. In your assessment, attorney, have these efforts reached a point of diminishing returns? And to what extent do you believe the process have become politicized, if at all?
Listen, it won't serve my interests or Mr. Duterte's interests if I say that the court's a political court. I'm not going to say that, as much as people would want me to say that. It's just self-destructive. We do our best. We're lawyers. We're doing a legal job. We've explored all possible avenues, and we've pursued them with maximum vigor.
Attorney, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that the Philippines still has a viable path to bring former President Duterte back home? What factors support that level of confidence?
Between 1 to 10?
Yes.
I would say 100 if President Marcos would invite me to Manila. I'd sit down with him and I'd explain to him that nothing will happen if he allows my client to go back to Davao. He's an old man. Let him live out his life in peace, quietly, and don't interfere with him.
We understand, attorney, that Senator Marcos also came here twice already because she wanted to have a meeting with the former president, and it was not approved by the ICC. What is the weight? Should it be allowed by the ICC, this particular meeting? Will it have an impact?
Once again, there are certain judicial decisions which have been taken which I'm not allowed to comment on.
Thank you, attorney. Last question. Do you have a message for the Filipino people who are closely following the ongoing proceedings before the International Criminal Court involving the former president, Rodrigo Duterte?
Yeah, here I'm going to use the Vice President's words. Take heart, be strong, and pray for his release.
Thank you, attorney.
At yun na nga mga kababayan, ano na ang masasabi mo? Kung mayroon kayong hinaing at komento patungkol sa balitang ito, please comment down below. Pag-uusapan natin yan sa comment section. At kung nagustuhan nyo ang video, ay huwag kalimutang mag-like at i-share na din para mas marami pang makaalam at umabot ito sa marami sa ating mga kababayan.
Yun na nga po, no? 100% po na makakalaya, makakalabas at makakauwi si Pangulong Duterte sa Davao. Dahil sabi ni Kaufman, matanda na raw ito, kailangan niya ng we live in peace. Kailangan niya ng mahabang pahinga, magpahinga dahil matanda na nga po daw ito. So, yan po mga kababayan, ngayon, mga ngatog na naman ang tuhod ng administrasyong Marcos at Pinklawan, Dilawan. Kaya sama-sama po tayong sumuporta. Makalaya man o hindi, makalabas man o hindi, ang Pangulong Duterte, sumuporta pa rin o tayo. Sana solid pa rin o tayo mga DDS at mga taga-suporta ni Bibi Sara na magandang laban po ito pagdating ng 2028. Magkakaalaman po dyan kung sino nga ba talaga ang gusto ng mga mamamayang Pilipino. Hindi ng taong bayan ng mga mamamayang Pilipino kung sino nga ba talagang gusto na mamuno dito sa Pilipinas para sa ating bayan, kung sino talagang gusto na maihalal bilang presidente ng Pilipinas. So yun lang po mga kaibigan, mga kababayan. Ito na naman po si Mars Solo. Kung hindi ka pa nakapag-subscribe at bago ka pa lang sa channel ko, please subscribe naman. Hit mo yung notification bell para updated po tayo sa mga video ating ginagawa. News at mga balita na nangyayari sa ating bayan, bansa at trending ngayon. Ito, magandang umaga ay magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat. Babush! At ngayon po ay 9 o'clock na po. At ito 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 po ay 9 o'clock na po. At